Hello and welcome to Top Story. Computer evidence that President Hugo Chavez of Venezuela may be even more closely linked to Colombia's FARC guerrillas than previously thought hung like a cloud over the weekend summit of European and Latin American leaders in Peru. Investigation of laptops seized in a cross-border raid into Ecuador by Colombian security forces on March the 1st has revealed an apparent treasure trove of files and photographs linking the Venezuelan authorities to FARC. In one document, a senior FARC commander talks of his plans to ask Chavez for a loan of $250 million, while others suggest Venezuelan officials served as middlemen with Australian arms dealers. FARC is listed by Washington as a terrorist organization, and the files have fueled the demands of Washington hawks to add Venezuela to the US list of state sponsors of terror, along with Syria, Iran and North Korea. Chavez has dismissed the files as fakes, but a forensic investigation of the laptops by Interpol has strengthened their credibility. But for the moment at least, Washington seems reluctant to exploit the apparent findings to the full. Well, joining me now to discuss the issue is Pascal Drouot, who's a specialist on Latin America at the Choiseul Institute in Paris and the author of FARC, The Confessions of a Guerrilla. If I could just start by asking you, how authentic do these files seem to be that were found by the Colombian security forces?
Well, in fact, those computers has been founded during the 1st of March, when Raúl Reyes, who was number 2 of the FARC, has been killed during a military operation by the Colombian forces. And since it is true that Interpol has been investigating those computers, and those elements appears and are now inside the table, showing that Venezuela, Ecuador could be actors in this context, because we are living inside a context of war. And I think that's most important. It is a regional tension because it is a war in Colombia, and of course we are now living a new step in this regional situation.
It should be said, of course, that the Interpol investigation was solely into whether or not the Colombian authorities could have tampered with the files.
Well, Ronald Noble, the General Secretary of Interpol, was in Bogota last week, and the elements found in the computers showed that they are not tricked. I mean, they are
not tampered with. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. They are real, and that's the point, in fact. And that's the point during also in a political moment very important. Last week, it was a summit in Lima between the EU, the European countries, and Latin America. And this summit was taking place in this context.
Under this cloud of the investigation. How damaging are these findings to Hugo Chavez?
Well, in fact, we all know and we can understand, politically speaking, that Venezuela and the Venezuela of Hugo Chavez is supporting the FARC, because the project, Bolivarian project, I mean a new place in Latin America who could be independent, if it is a sense. So it is logical to see this alliance. Hence also, we know perfectly that Hugo Chavez wants to create a new sphere of influence in opposition of other influence. And in this vision, FARC, Ecuador, Bolivia are, of course, allied of this context. So, at the moment, it is on the international level important and very difficult for Hugo Chavez, because the elements are on this table, and that's why Hugo Chavez pronounced words so hard against Ronald Noble and against Interpol.
One of the curious things about this case, though, is just how reluctant Washington seems to be to use the findings against Hugo Chavez?
Well, now the elements, in fact, will be on one investigation, and we have to see, in fact, the political consequences of this context. I think that Washington, and we are showing that since a few days, that Washington is very not speaking too much because Interpol is making his work.
It's not got anything to do with the oil, you don't think? Huh?
No, but and also we have to separate the situation, because if we are entering in this tension between Washington and Caracas, of course, the situation will be critical. We have only to examine the elements the computer showed. We have to analyze on military consequences, but also political consequences. Because in this part of the world and in this part of Latin America, it is a confrontation between vision, between ideas, and between two projects.
You don't think that Washington's reluctance reflects the fact that it needs Venezuela's oil?
Of course, it is a strong exchange in oil between Venezuela and Washington, but that's not the point. The point is today, if the support the computers are revealing of Hugo Chavez to the FARC will have consequences inside Colombia, inside security and peace in Andean Latin America, and of course, who could be the consequences for the next presidential elections in Colombia in 2010, and also inside Venezuela for Hugo Chavez.
And of course, Hugo Chavez plays an important role in trying to secure hostage releases in Colombia as well. And that, I'm afraid, is all we have time for today. Thanks very much to our guest, Pascal Drouot. Join us again tomorrow for another edition of Top Story. Goodbye for now.